Now, let me bring out real quick, writer, director, editor, action genius, god of cinema, Gareth Evans. So, was the goal to top every scene in the first film, or was it, let's just expand and try new shit?
A little bit of both, really. We knew we wanted to try different things this time, because in the last one we did like so much just martial arts and gunplay, and so this one it gave us an opportunity to try a car chase out. So it was kind of, after the raid 1, I'll just carry on.
Yep.
You sent text?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So after the first one, like we kind of had a few offers to do something outside of Indonesia, but I was a bit hesitant because I thought maybe we just fluked out on the first one. And so I wanted to try and learn other things and try car chases and try other elements of action that I hadn't tried before. And so this was the perfect opportunity to try and do that. So yeah.
Yeah, you might, I didn't think you really pulled the car chase off. You might want to try that. Try it again in the next film. Let's just go right to the audience. I mean, people who know me know that I am just about the biggest Raid fan, tied with most of you. But I am just about the biggest Raid fan you will ever find. And I don't call a film better or worse, but this is so, it fits perfectly, man. It is, it has the morality of the first one, and what I like is that the comic book violence is insane. Talk about a little bit about why you want to do 4 or 5 punches instead of 3. And explain how, like, it's kind of a grand guignol, or is it intensity? What?
I think, like, when it comes to the punches, a lot of time, sometimes it's dictated by, like, the psychology of the scene and stuff like that. So, like, when it came to the Raid 1, there was, like, a kill or be killed situation, right? So, in Miranda, our first movie, that was all about the guy trying to avoid the fight. So when you're avoiding the fight, you don't kind of get stuck into it, you try to push away and clear out and get away from it. But in the Raid 1, obviously it was kill or be killed, and here it's kind of the similar scenario. And so whenever Eco or anyone faces off against someone, whoever they're fighting, they gotta make sure that they're not gonna get back up and be another opponent. So I figured 3 punches might do some, but 5 tends to do maximum amount of damage.
What his enemies out of commission.
Basically, yeah. And about the comic book elements of it, like what we wanted to do in this one was we were expanding the universe a lot more. And I wanted to try to kind of put characters in there that kind of stretch the boundaries of the reality of the world that we're working in. So, to a degree, Hammer Girl and Baseball Batman are kind of from a comic book world. But Joe, the way he's designed, with the gloves and sunglasses, is kind of a comic book thing. But still, yeah, we were trying to go for that kind of like pop icon type of look for each of these characters to make them stand out. But in terms of the action beats, we tried to make it still feel like, this shit could happen. Maybe not the baseball, but still, like everything else could still happen. And that's where we tried to like play around and have a little bit of fun and skirt the line of reality versus, comedy.
What works in this one, I think, is that as much as it is just pure action, you still have, you bring back characters from the first film, and you do a really good job of, if they're not characters, they're really fun caricatures, How important is it that you get these characters to a certain point of, this is ultimate henchman, this is evil, this is the ultimate bad guy, that kind of thing?
For us, like, to distinguish the idea of, like, basically about Hammer Girl, and then obviously the assassin played by Cheche, who's actually in the audience again tonight. Fuck Geeko, he's already had enough applause already. So. But yeah, so to kind of differentiate between them, it was one of those things where we knew we had Percoso played by Yayan Ruken, who played Mad Dog in the first film, and we knew we had that moment, and when people saw the first film, they related so much to Mad Dog, everyone kind of took him to their heart. weirdly. But then what I wanted to do is to kind of have this moment where it was kind of like passing the baton. So having the assassin played by Chechep come in and kill Yayan's character, that was a way of kind of like saying, okay, no, this is your Mad Dog, this is the next one.
I don't think you would make that character somehow sympathetic in the sequel. It's fucking amazing.
But that's Yayan's work, because like the thing with that was we were worried about like, okay, well, I mean, he's Yayan, he looks exactly the way he does. You know, doesn't matter how much we put on him, doesn't matter how much you change him, everyone's going to know, oh, that's the guy playing Mad Dog. But he just transformed himself and his personality, like he toned down a lot of his sort of, you know, his gestures and his expressions and kind of shrunk in. Could have been his brother, yeah. The less experienced brother. But he brought in all of his, made everything kind of more internal and held on and kind of, you know, wasn't able to be as sort of like wise ass, as badass as he was as Mad Dog. And it's only when he explodes into the violence, and that's where you kind of see shades of Mad Dog then again.
Talk a little bit about your Godfather 2. I mean, all the
assassin.
You have the montage of the three
Yeah.
henchmen, and I mean, that's film analysis 101, right?
Yeah.
That's your Godfather sequence. What was and when you released the Hammer Girl sequence, that was all in one straight. So now I see it's all cut together, and it is
Thank you.
absolute highlight. It is absolutely beautiful. It really is. And what is it? Homage? Is it? Well, it's just a lot of action films ended this way.
Yeah.
Is it straight homage?
To be honest with that one, it was the need to start establishing all of those bad guys. There was a need to kind of find like what can I do to establish each of these guys as, like you said, that ranking of bad guy. And so yeah, it was kind of like we wanted to find thematic links. So the reason why the assassin kills the guy in the sugar cane fields is because it's the same location where Rama's brother gets killed. So it's to find the kind of like some kind of subconscious personal link between the two. And then for Hammer Girl, yeah, we released it. I think we screened it in a few festivals last year, uncut, just like one straight sequence of Hammer Girl. But that was always meant to be split into sections.
I mean, it's great footage, period. But
Yeah.
in the final film, I think it works much better as a montage.
Thank you.
It's very exciting. The whole sequence is great. Let's go out to the audience. I have a few more questions, but I'm honestly fucking blown away. I really am. It was as good as I expected, and I had pretty high expectations.
You've got a really
Don't yell out, please. Thank you.
You've got a really dynamic visual style. Can you talk a little bit about the cinematography of the Raid 1 and 2?
Yeah, on this one we had a bigger box of tricks to play with. We were shooting on red this time, so my DOPs were a lot happier, because on the last one we shot on like a HD cam. That was great for what we wanted, for the flexibility, but in low light it was a problematic thing, because it was too dark and the picture broke up whenever we tried to lift it up. And I think on this one, what we wanted to do is to start introducing a wider color scape, like a wider canvas of colors in the film. So the first movie was all, you know, the same corridors, rooms, it was gray, pretty dark and grungy look. And so this time we really wanted to play around with the vibrancy of color and sort of like, you know, give different characters a different color scheme as well. And so, yeah, in terms of the fluidity, I don't know a good answer for that, but it just comes down to this thing where we need like a safety net when we do these films. We're not experienced as like Hong Kong choreographers or action guys out there, where they can do that shit on the fly, and they can like, you know, design these scenes while they're on set and shoot these amazing sequences just on the fly. For us, we need to plan way in advance, way ahead. So we shoot like all these video storyboards, and then the whole plan is that every single shot is going to be like a jigsaw piece. And because I involve myself with the guys in the choreography, every shot has to feel like it's following the choreography, that is showing the best way to showcase this hit, this block, this kick, this throw, whatever. So that's like a big part of the design process.
Can you talk a little bit about the score for this film? And
Yeah.
there's only one score.
Yeah.
I talk about the process in this, and was it more or less elaborated?
We kind of planned ahead so that we could have it as one score this time around. We wanted to have our Indonesian composers that worked on the first film, because you know, their work, you know, for better or worse, kind of got like sidelined a little bit when we released over here, when we had the new score done then by Joe Trapanese and Mike Shinoda. And so what I wanted to do was to kind of almost to protect them a little bit as well, and because Joe was so interested in working with us again, that we combined Fajar Noki, our Indonesian composers, with Joe, and then they scored together. So then they worked on the whole film together. So there was this mix of like Indonesian taste and then Western taste.
Separate scores, you would flip them on your DVD.
Yeah.
And now you have all the composers working together.
All completely together, yeah.
But that's not all. You also have some other people.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get 2 99 tracks for the end of the film then. So I've been a massive, huge fan of 99, so I got plenty when we got the rights to this.
So what was that contact like? How did you get in touch with your Reznor or his people and say, I made the raid, and he went, I saw the I loved it, you can have what you want?
Kind of similar-ish, almost like that. But it was, I was lucky enough to meet up with him, and once I kind of got over the fact that I was meeting him, I showed him some clips from Raid 2, and we talked a little bit about the Raid, and he'd seen like Safe Haven as well, so it was a good starting point. And then I asked him about possibly if we could use 2 of the tracks from Ghosts for the end sequence of the film. And so yeah, luckily enough, he agreed, and we got it locked in.
Somebody here? Go ahead, right there in the middle, sir.
Did you draw any inspiration from Old Boy?
Old Boy.
I know you're going to say the chalk outline on the wall. Yeah. Not intentionally. I did for some stuff, like, you know, the use of hammers. The one thing I love about Korean cinema is the fact that they always use the most blunt, dull objects ever for the most amount of pain. And so, like, I've stolen plenty from Korean cinema. But the chalk outline wasn't really intentional. It was just, it was basically, we did the punch bag sequence in the first film, and Iko does the same choreography again, but using the prison wall. And it was the idea that in the first movie, we wanted to do these little sort of parallels, where in the first movie, it was all about him getting his mental and physical and spiritual preparation ready to go and do this crazy task. Whereas in this one, after he finishes that punch routine on the wall, it's like regret and sadness in his face. So that's just kind of like this contrasting version of 2 scenes.
Very cool. This gentleman here.
Did you find that using Reds in this film, instead of the AF100s from the first film, did you find that it allowed you to have more seamless choreography, not only between you and the action, but also the special effects and everything?
I mean, I think it was kind of the same thing, really. I mean, the difference is how it looks when it's projected up on there, because the quality and the resolution is so much higher than when we shot in HD. It didn't really kind of affect us too much in terms of moving around or flexibility. The Scarlet, by the time because we used the red Scarlet for the majority of the shoot, sometimes using Epic for slow-mo, but Scarlet was the main thing. And we would use that, and once we kind of added all our lenses, once we used all our lenses, it kind of weighed pretty much the same as the HD camera did anyway. So we would always strap it onto like a fig rig, the steering wheel, in order to kind of be able to come down really low and come down really high within the same shot. The VFX thing, that was kind of like a different process. That was more in the workflow side of things, because like suddenly we had to deliver to our online editor, not HD footage anymore, but now 4K footage that he would end up doing VFX on and then dropping it onto 2K, putting it back in the color grade, and it was all fucking technical and way too complicated for me to understand.
What was the mud made?
The mud was made of mud. You know what, actually, okay, so that shoe was horrible. I lost a pair of shoes in the mud. Yeah, and I liked those shoes as well, they were nice. We shot for about 8 days in that mud. And the hardest part of that was, like, you know, besides the fact that it was hard for like Iko and the fighters to not slip and fall all the time doing the choreography, but also for the DOP, who's got a guy holding onto his hip the entire time to make sure if he does fall that the camera's not going to go in there with him. And then also when you're coming in low on those shots, I mean, somebody strikes and blocks, mud splashes all over the lens. So there were so many little problematic areas in there. And by the end of the 8 days of shooting, we were all so relieved. Like when we checked that last edit and we knew we were done and that was it, we weren't going to shoot anymore. Me and a bunch of guys, we all kind of went out there, and then because I was pretty clean most of the time, just, you know, ankles. So those guys were just caked in the shit all the time. So we did a celebratory swan dive, right face down in the mud. Found out about a month ago from my DOP that all the fighters in there were taking a piss in the mud. So I'm off to get a tetanus shot later on.
I have one more question, and I'm going to close out with one more from the audience.
Yeah.
I noted with the Hammer woman, let's call it.
Yeah.
Hammer woman, you find in other nations where they're like, oh yeah, no problem with these raid movies. They're great, violence, no problem. And as soon as some nations find a problem when you cut a woman's neck.
Woman
Yeah.
during a movie, I mean.
Yeah, I think
Oh yeah, she did deserve
she
it.
did deserve it. You're right. No, I don't. I mean, for that one, I always thought like for me, like it wasn't any different, and it shouldn't be any different because like the bad guy sees a good guy and that's it. Yeah, I never really kind of like felt
Curious to see if any
different.
nations or ratings board have a problem with that, just that one specific.
We'll
joke.
find out soon, I think.
Who has a great question to close out the evening? Right there in the back. Stand up, please.
I just want to know what's the process like writing and directing a movie in multiple languages that you're not necessarily fluent in?
We'll be Sabas Indonesia though.
Oh, he speaks fluent Indonesian, so he's okay there.
No, I'm not fluent yet, but I tend to write in English the entire way through. I write the whole script in English, and then we get someone to come in and do the translation of the script. And then a lot of the cast members will read both versions and then check if anything feels a little stiff between the translation. Sometimes, you know, I don't know it, but a turn of phrase might be Welsh. It might be specifically Welsh, no one else will fucking get. So then we go through everything and then make sure that the actors are comfortable saying what they're saying in Indonesian. So that's like a good process. And I've been lucky, a lot of the actors, they all speak fluent English anyway, and so I can discuss with them in a lot of detail. So like with Ari Fader plays Ucho and Orca who plays Eka, all those guys, we talk to endlessly about it.
Final question. What's your favorite audience moment in this one? Oh!
Baseball Batman when in the mouth. That was nice. It was 3-pronged, that was really nice. Thank you so much for that. Thank you very much. Thank you for saying it as well. I appreciate it.